Welcome to the Embrace the Turn Up podcast. Cultural commentary from two guys who want all the smoke. All the smoke. And now your hosts, A-Dub and John.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I know you missed us. As you can hear, my voice is pretty much gone from SummerSlam. It was phenomenal. But we're not here for that. That's every Friday and Let Me Book the Territory. This is Embrace the Turn Up. I am the homie A-Dub, the pod guy, the pod tribal chief, if you will. Gave John another week off. And I got Henrods checking back in with me because we're going to nerd the fuck out. I know everybody.
How great is it for everyone listening that they don't have to listen to the wrestling stuff on here anymore?
Oh, I still pepper John with that every so often. It's great. It's great. I'm gonna have him be a full-fledged
You can't hear me shaking my head, but you probably should be able to.
Oh, don't worry, Henry. You'll be a full-fledged fan, so it's fine. Don't worry. Don't worry. We'll have you at Mania or the Royal Rumble or something. Don't worry. But yeah, Henrods is in the building. I know you guys loved our breakdown of the WGA strike, so stand strong with the strikers. So I decided to bring him back because it's time to talk about the state of the MC Universe? I don't know. Working titles here. Henrods, how you feeling, big dog?
Sore. A softball tournament that went way too long on Saturday, and then I got asked to play yesterday, and now I have a tournament tonight.
And Henrods never says no.
No, it's a problem.
He's like, what was that movie with Jim Carrey, Yes Man?
Yeah.
When that guy said no all the time, and they dared him to say yes, and then he couldn't stop like it was an addiction. Henrods is the exact opposite. He just says yes. Whatever you need. Yep. I needed him here. And he said, yep. So, Secret Invasion.
Yeah.
Has there been a more polarizing show or movie in the MCU?
I am not going to lie. I've sort of dodged most of the online rhetoric around this for whatever reason. So I don't know if it's super polarizing. I will take your word for it on that. I do have my own thoughts on it that we'll get into it eventually.
So there are people out there who absolutely hate it for like a myriad of reasons. Some people hate the pacing. Some people hate like how like unloyal it was to the comics. Some people are saying that Gaia is way too OP. Why is she not in Avengers now? They say there's so many issues.
That was me.
Yeah, but like, and I don't know, like, but I see people who defend it, like myself, I'm like, well, guys, not everything is going to be the first Avengers movie or Captain America. This is what we always wanted. We wanted a universe. And you can't tell me that if you buy all couple thousand comics that Marvel puts out every year, that they're all the greatest thing in the world. But Henry, give me your initial thoughts after you finished up the 6th episode. What you thought of the series as a whole?
I mean, this is going to be a boring answer, but I thought it was fine. Like, was it the best MCU thing I've ever seen? No. Was it the worst? No. Just kind of falls somewhere in the middle. I felt like it asked more questions than it was able to answer in the grand scale of things that you kind of touched on. For example, when there are going to be spoilers all over the place, guys, spoiler warning now, but it's been out for over a month, so I think we're good on that.
Yeah.
Just a heads up, though. When was Rhodey turned? There's a question for you. Does it matter? I guess is another one. You touched on Gaia. At the end, for those that don't know, Gaia gets basically injected with every Avenger or every superhero we have seen, their DNA, and has all of their powers. So Captain Marvel, Groot, even villains. If you remember Thanos' henchman, the one that had telekinesis and could throw things around with his mind in Infinity War, he was part of that as well. Basically, it was just all thrown in this vial, which is another great question. Why is this all in just one vial? She gets injected with it. At the end, she lives. Now she just exists in the universe. If she never comes back, how does the most powerful being, by definition, if she has every single power, how is the most powerful being in the universe just ignored? And that kind of lends itself to something that we discussed, is if these are truly just side stories, are we at the point now where not everything in the MCU needs to be consumed in order to understand what is going on in the grand scheme of things? Every movie, arguably in phase up to Endgame, every movie either added something to the universe, introduced a character to the universe, or set something up in the universe that was answered by the end of Endgame. It doesn't... We're not at the end of the 3-phase... I'm trying to think of a good word for it. Outside of phase. We're not at the end of the Kang saga, right?
Correct.
So we don't know yet whether... what would be another good example? Because Loki and Scarlet Witch have both kind of been used. Dobbs, help me out here. What's another MCU TV show that we haven't talked about that hasn't been brought up in a later movie?
Falcon Winter Soldier?
Sure. We know that one's eventually going to, but we'll use it for now. We don't know how much of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or any of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is going to come into play in the next Captain America movie. It set up the Shadow Broker. It set up, it did some stuff with Baron Zemo. It set up Anthony Mackie as the actual next Cap. Set up all this stuff. Is any of it actually going to be important come the movie? And then the question is, if there are things that are not going to be important and are sort of just for the fans, should, and if they should, how should Marvel let people know that this is super important, watch this, and this is a deep dive side story, you don't need to know it? How do they delineate those two? Should they? And if they do, how do they justify spending any sort of budget on those side stories?
Why do they need to delineate?
Well, because I'm sure you've heard superhero fatigue plenty. There are people not watching any of the shows just because they're burnt out on all of it. So if you can say, well, I understand that, but you should probably watch these 3. They're super important. These 3 maybe not. Then at least they're going from not watching any of them to watching half of them.
But if you're Disney, this is all important to you. That's the thing
From a
here.
monetary standpoint.
You're building a universe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, universe is not... So, to me, the people who have superhero fatigue, they weren't really in this from the beginning anyway. And I say the beginning meaning...
Oh, I disagree fundamentally.
I mean, prior to, like, movies existing. They weren't in these comic books. They weren't watching the X-Men cartoon back in the day. They knew these characters existed. Oh, movies are out. Cool, I'll watch these movies. But there are those of us, many of us, who said, what if all of this, all these thousands of comic books I have in boxes and shit, was on the screen? And that's what they're giving us. They're giving us a universe, not a solar system, not even a galaxy, a universe. And like, I can't see any reason why Disney would say, well, this isn't important. No, it's all important. It's all part of this universe. And then, like, if you watch the movies and there's certain parts you don't get, oh, did you watch Captain America: Winter Soldier? Well, no. Well, then you wouldn't understand that part, like, at all. Or did you watch, I don't know, some show coming up, Agatha and Harkness? Oh, you didn't? Well, you're not going to catch that part. You're not going to catch this. You're not going to catch that. Like, and that's the beautiful thing about us is like it creates those little tidbit moments where like, aha, aha. Like when in event Endgame, Nat was like, "What should we do about those tremors under the ocean?" And what did she say? It's a tremor in the ocean. We do nothing about it. Now you know, those tremors in the ocean, they meant something. There's a whole fucking city down there. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, why like devalue your product?
But that was also
by
answered
saying, like, oh, this isn't important. No, it's all important. It's all as important as you want it to be. If you want to be all in on this and you want to watch the next movies and not miss a thing, you gotta watch these shows. It's really that simple for people.
But if they keep that up, there is nothing that they can put in a show that is as important as something they put in a movie. Because then you're telling people, now you've got homework to do and go watch an entire, I'll use Daredevil, 24 episode season.
Yeah.
To go catch up on this.
Yeah. I mean,
for something for a small thing that they might have missed, but at the same time, like I said, and it got you thinking for a second. If you put it in a show right now, because it's much harder for a they have to subscribe to Disney Plus, they can't just go to a theater, and B, it makes shows required viewing, and that is a lot bigger of a time commitment than going to a movie is. You cannot put anything as important in a show that you can a movie. If you differentiate and say, this will be main plot important, and this is a side story, now you can hide something in there. Or I shouldn't even say hide. Now you can put something in a show and say, this is as important as going to a movie theater.
But if I'm a Disney exec, I want you to believe everything I put out in the MCU is important as going to a movie theater.
At the same time, though, could you get more people to subscribe to Disney Plus if you tell them that if they see, oh, this one on that streaming service is just as important as Avengers? Man, I really need to see that.
Why not just pitch everything that way?
Because we're past that point, Dubs. Now, at this point, people know that, oh, well, there might be a small little callback in a movie, but it's not going to be super important.
People have come to that conclusion on their own, but I don't think like Disney telling them different would change anything. The people who know all the callbacks are going to watch it anyway. Like if you differentiate, if you say, hey, these things aren't as important, the people who are all in, I'd be like, well, damn, now they're not valuing me. Maybe I should unsubscribe too. Well, instead of just saying, hey, everything's super important, people who are already all in are just going to stay all in. And then the people were like, well, shit, this might be really important to this one movie I want to see. Let me get back in. You should never devalue your product like at all for the naysayers, ever. You should continue to push out, hey, this is important. This is important. This is important. And then if some people come to their own conclusion of, well, this is as important, I'm done. Cool. You were going to lose them at some point anyway. But you don't want to alienate, your loyal people with saying like, this isn't that important. You get what I'm saying?
But haven't they done that with comics in the past of straight up saying this is a side story?
Hey, not really. Like, heroes branch off on their own sometimes and then they come back, but they don't like specifically say this is a side story. Like things just kind of happen through the development right? For the story. Like the Extreme X-Men was like the X-Men some X-Men branching off to prevent some thing from happening. Did it relate to the main story of the actual X-Men comic book? No, but in theory, if they weren't successful on their side mission, then everything goes to shit. So technically, yeah, it's just as important. So like, and that's my thing. Like, at some point, you just have to say we're building a whole universe here, and if you're in for the universe, you're in for all of it. Like, does the Hawkeye show really matter? Like at all?
I mean, that's a great question, right? Like, we it revolved around Kingpin. Presumably, Kingpin might be related to Spider-Man, might be related to Daredevil, but we haven't seen that. We know Spider-Man's sort of, in that messy relationship with Sony still, so I'm not sure where that stands. And we don't have the Daredevil show yet. How important is Daredevil going to be to the movies? We don't know.
So again, does the Hawkeye show really matter?
I think
with the information you have now,
I guess
the answer is no.
No.
But is it
like
something
I said,
really cool to watch as part of this universe?
Yes, it was enjoyable to watch. And, it kind of did bring Hawkeye back into the fold after we saw from Endgame. I do think this might be somewhat of a more interesting conversation to have at the end. I think it's a great conversation to have now because we're in the middle of it and we'll see who ends up being not necessarily right, but see at the end of the Kang saga whether all of these actually ended up being important, because it is a different format than we saw from Marvel in the first saga, the Infinity Saga, where every single thing was in a movie, and now it's movies and TV, mainly because there's smaller scale stories that they can tell as part of the TV, or on TV, or on Disney, however you want to see it. And then at the end, sorry, I'm going to repeat myself here. We don't know if everything's going to be important. At the end, when we have this conversation, we can say X, Y, and Z was important, and then maybe these shows weren't, and discuss the value of having those unimportant shows once we have full context. I think that all might be interesting as well.
Yeah, and let's kind of get back into the Secret Invasion here. I think another important thing you said was the thing with Gaia about how she's so powerful now. But I think one thing people are kind of missing from that is that not everybody's built for this superhero life. Maybe she doesn't want to be the most powerful being in the universe. She just like a lot of other Skrulls just wants a place to live. You know what I mean? And it's looking like she's going to have some sanctuary with, I guess, Europol or MI6, and help them kind of do some things and use these skills she's acquired along with these powers. But it does beg the question that does she pop up in the Kang Dynasty, or does that thing happen so fast that she can't just pop up and fly there? She's not on the group chat, if you will. So. Mm-hmm. I think that's very important for people to realize that, just because somebody got these powers doesn't mean they're about that life. I think that was a very important thing that they talked about in She-Hulk. I mean, I know people have their opinions on that show, but again, she got those powers. She didn't want to do that though, so that to me that was important as well. But again, maybe I'm just tripping. Maybe I'm just throwing Disney all the bail in the world. I don't know. And am I tripping there, or is everybody else tripping?
I mean, it's certainly a possibility, but do I really need to bring the Spider-Man quote up? With great power comes great responsibility. Yeah, with great power comes great responsibility. So, yes, I guess in some way she could just say, yeah, I don't want any of this. This is a burden that I didn't ask for. It's a responsibility that I don't feel like I should be the one to take. At the same time, though, I feel like that would sort of go against a lot of Marvel worldview in that it all does sort of stem from that Spider-Man quote. But I guess that's going to be Gaia's call as to what she does. And you brought up Skrulls looking for or I don't know. I'll let you
they just wanted
respond
a home.
to what I just said first.
They just wanted some place to live. Then they decided to go a little crazy and decided to blow up the Earth, or at least Gravik did.
And maybe that's how they explain away Gaia, right? She is now the one finding Skrulls a place to live, as opposed to Captain Marvel, who was supposed to be off doing it. Maybe that is Gaia's calling. She views it not as a saving the universe responsibility, but as a saving her people responsibility. That's a 2-line explanation they could throw out there that makes perfect sense.
And then you also got to wonder, like, so I was thinking about that too. Like, is she really out trying to find them another place, or is everybody who was like, kind of like sick of like playing human, were they all at New Skrulllus and then Gravik killed them all, and all the Skrulls that are left are just like they're fine just being people, I guess. Like I thought about that recently. I'm like,
I don't know.
Maybe everybody else was just kind of cool with this, and Gravik had the holdouts. You know, that's something I thought about. What did you think of Gravik as a character? Because I loved him.
I mean, I think my silence and I think that kind of explains it all, in that I guess he was a little bit more than a Marvel villain. He at least had, you know, a core tenant, as opposed to just being a bad guy.
Yeah.
in most Marvel movies. And you know, we've seen great Marvel villains, but they are few and far between. We had Thanos, Killmonger. Those are the top 2 off the top of my head. But
most of the Marvel villains
Gravik
are a
was
little
probably,
one note, but
yeah, and Gravik was better than that. But at the same time, I wouldn't say he was like amazing. Better than average for Marvel, still doesn't quite hit that tier.
yeah, I mean, I thought he was interesting as far as like he had this idea of giving his people a place to call home, but it was also a little bit motivated by revenge against Fury.
Yeah.
Oh, as I sneeze right on camera there, it's fine. It's fine. I couldn't hold that one in. Pick the bad part. Start talking.
That's what editing is for.
Yeah, pick the bad spot. Start talking there. Anyways, yeah, no, like he had this this thing to like just to kind of get vengeance on Fury, and his big thing was to get to Fury to stop lying, which is Fury's thing as the spy. Like I always wondered watching that show. I'm like, does Captain Marvel even know she's supposed to be trying to find them a home?
I had heard an interesting theory that this was supposed to be the plot to Captain Marvel 2.
Okay.
And got repurposed for a TV show without Brie Larson. Because I found it very odd that the entire thing sort of revolves around them finding a home when that was Captain Marvel's mission. And then Captain Marvel wasn't in it at all.
Yeah.
I don't know how much truth there is to that rumor. It does sort of make sense looking at the overall plot. And just, you know, the lack of Captain Marvel, yet it being her thing.
I mean, if that's the case,
so I don't know.
It's smart to rework
I don't know
into
how
a TV show, because I don't think you can do the spy thing with Captain Marvel. She's the most powerful being in the universe. She blows up shit. That's what she does.
Outside of Gaia now.
Well, yeah, but like she
yeah, because Gaia has her powers and then some.
Yeah, she blows up shit. Like the sneaking around, that to me that doesn't fit the Captain Marvel character. Captain Marvel is come in, clean house, do it for truth, justice in the American way, full Superman vibes. So I think that was probably a smart call in there, too.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I don't know how much truth there is to that rumor, and that could mean a wide variety of things, right? It could have been that the backbone of the Captain Marvel plot was about Skrulls finding their homeland, and they had a story written about that, and all they did was take the backbone out of it and write a completely new story around it. So it might not have been a spy thing at all for if it were to be Captain Marvel 2, but it ended up being so for the TV show.
Yeah. That's an LA Knight thing from wrestling. Don't worry, you'll figure it out one day. All
On
right.
my deathbed, you'll come and tell me and fill me in
I
on
will. I will
what
fill
that
you,
means.
I'll fill you in on all of it. Don't worry, I got you. Let me think. What other than I want to talk about the Secret Invasion? Because like, there's so many like just different ways you could go with that show.
Well, one thing that we talked about as soon as I finished it was, the comparison to, and part of the reason why people might not like it as much is comparison to the comic storyline, which Secret Invasion involved pretty much all of the Avengers, right? Because you have people that can shapeshift into humans and they are walking around as the Avengers instead of just random other people looking for a home or trying to blend in with Earth. They were going around, as these superheroes, which creates the far different plot in terms of trusting no one, not knowing, friends not knowing who they're talking to, knowing that these shapeshifters exist out there. And it was a huge plot line in the comics and is considered one of the better storylines in comics. And for it to be changed so much for the TV show, I think it's probably where you get a lot of the frustration at it being what it is.
Well, then, so that's the interesting part about it is like where this happens in the MCU. Like, we don't technically have Avengers right now. Thor's off raising a daughter. Cap decided to retire, and now Falcon's a new Cap. The Black Panther mantle had been passed, and she was busy trying not to get swallowed up by the ocean. I mean, Hulk is just trying to chill and live a life. Like, we don't really have we don't have Avenger level threats right now. But I think like the plot line is interesting in the fact of, we're the Skrulls, because the Skrulls were not established as villains in Captain Marvel. So I think you had to completely pivot away from that. Because in the comic, they were all villains. They were all villains. And like, until Captain Marvel, the movie came out, when I saw Skrull, I thought villain. I was like, boom. And it was just that cut and dry with me. So when you realize they're not, and you paint them as refugees, you kind of have to switch this up. Which is why I thought it was very important that they set up the story of Nick Fury using them as secret spies and stuff, and then Gravik becoming disillusioned with who Fury was and the fact that he was never going to be able to go home and live in his own skin again. And then him radicalizing people because that's something that really happens, in this world a lot, especially with younger people. So I thought them tying that together was great. And then the radicalization of Gravik, when he kind of saw Fury as a father figure. At some point in your life, you realize your parents are just as flawed as you are. But then when you hold people up to that high esteem of hero status, almost godlike of how they relate to you, and you realize they're nothing more than liars, but you've done all these evil things for them, then you become a powerful orator about how they are not who they say they are. They're not going to help us. We have to take what's ours, which was a very interesting thing to me. I was like, oh, they just going to have the planet nuke each other? Which, again, if you've grown up as a millennial, that's been our fear forever, that we're all just going to nuke each other. And you're like... Yeah,
mutually assured destruction is discussed a little too often, I think.
Yeah, and you're like...
For my liking.
And then you kind of see him kind of develop. It's like, oh, shit. This is kind of real easy to do if you just have every side playing against each other and the outcome doesn't matter to you.
You're the one actually doing the play.
Yeah, and the outcome doesn't matter to you because you're going to survive either way. Yeah. So I did like that they knew they had to change it up. How they change it up. Like, refugees, I mean, that's how it happens. That's how you create terrorists. You create refugees and then you don't help them. That's literally how you create terrorists. 101. And I mean, I feel like...
So you're telling me not to do that. Got it.
I mean, crazy, right?
Yeah.
That being said, I will say the show did have some things that I I don't think Fury needed a Skrull wife. I think that was. I was like, all right, this is kind of corny. Why does he have a Skrull wife? Come on, guys. What are we doing? And I would have liked them to kind of like talk a little bit more about like what they thought Carol Danvers was out there doing and like not finding them at home. Because Fury's out on that space
she just
station.
didn't exist.
Yeah. Fury's been up on that space station. Like, what the fuck has he been doing up there? Like, what's going on? Like, that would just... I think if you told a little bit of that story, you could get people a little bit more on Gravik's side and then create that moral quandary within them of, shit, am I rooting for the bad guy who's going to nuke the whole planet?
And going back to our earlier conversation, like, referencing more story from movies and stuff like that would give people, oh, yeah, okay, this is tied in this way, as opposed to, okay, well, I remember Skrulls from Captain Marvel. Sure, I guess they were looking for a homeworld. Was Captain Marvel doing... Was that what she was supposed to be doing? And like, they're trying to remember it instead of, just having those little reminders to tie it all together, as opposed to, I don't know where I was going for that. I had a metaphor and then it didn't make any sense. So
yeah, like
that's just my opinion.
I think that would have helped the story out a lot, just to kind of explain what Carol Danvers has been doing, because there's a lot of Captain Marvel time that's not accounted for.
Yeah.
From like what? From like 95 to like 2018?
Yeah, so she didn't blip because we see Widow talking to her after the blip.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
And then she comes in for a cameo appearance, takes down a ship and fights Thanos hand to hand, and then pieces out. Like, that's how much Marvel we've seen since the 90s.
Yeah, and like, what was she... All right, granted, so she said she was coming after the Kree. What does that even mean? What are you doing? Mm-hmm. What were you doing for 30-some-odd years?
Yeah.
Never thought to check in back home at all?
Yeah, I mean, outside of when Fury called her at the end of Infinity War.
Exactly.
And that might be something that they go into in the Marvels, but and I know that I keep coming back to this point, but if you put that in the TV show instead, even if you don't have Brie Larson in there, even in a cameo role, the TV show feels like it becomes more important.
Agreed.
If Nick Fury talks about what he knew about Captain Marvel and what she was doing the entire time, as opposed, and I understand sort of why they didn't, right? There's a rule that if you can tell or you can show, you always show, because telling just becomes an exposition dump at some point, which can get boring for the audience. But if they don't address it in the Marvels, then I feel like it probably should have been addressed in Secret Invasion. Just my opinion.
Yeah, man, because there's other levels, there's other elements to that too. Like in the Marvels, what's the black girl's name? Help me out. Rambo.
Yeah.
She's gonna have
Rambo.
her own issues with Captain Marvel for just being gone.
Yep.
And like, boy, if you just gave us like a couple of years of what she was out there doing when she was just out there, you might have something there. Like, and because you compare like Rambo's disillusionment with Captain Marvel to Miss Marvel's hero worship, you could do some real cool things there. And then like, yeah, you could tell the story of,
which I think we'll get.
I hope so. We tell the story of like Rambo when she came back and then from the blip found out her mom died, and then again, Danvers still not there. Like, again, and me and you talk about it all the time. I keep coming back to it. There's so much more story they can tell with the blip. So much. Mm-hmm. Because if people disappeared, so did some Skrulls who were dressed as people too. Like there's so much story there. But speaking about people disappearing, one big thing that everybody on the internet is arguing about is when did they grab Rhodey?
Yeah, I brought that up right at the beginning. It was the first question I asked.
Yes.
So we know he's in a hospital gown.
Yes.
Right? So end of Civil War is a possibility?
Yes. Oof. Yeah, I mean, I think end of Civil War is probably a bad idea.
So do I.
Just because that's too much for him to process during Armor Wars. Too much. Way too much. But
yeah,
if they grab him, like, say, after a checkup after Infinity War, totally fine with that.
I am gonna go out on a limb here, and I hope I'm wrong. I don't think it's ever addressed.
Oh no, it has to. You have to, because in Armor Wars, he's gonna be dealing with the fact that Tony died. So you're gonna have to argue. You're gonna have to like show when they got him.
I think it's as simple as it happens between then and the beginning of the show. I think that's all they're going to say about it. I don't think it was after I don't think it was after any major event that we saw. I just think they're going to say it was between the end of Endgame and the beginning of Secret Invasion, and that's it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they explain it a little bit more in depth than that, but that's my guess.
Boy, that would be a waste. That would be such a waste. Like, because Rhodey dealing with, like, A, trying to rebuild his reputation, and B, dealing with the grief of losing his best friend and how much the world has changed. Mm-hmm. And in addition to stopping the Armor Wars from happening, that's a layered story. That is a layered, phenomenal story. Now, I can see you being right. If they're trying to get this story done right now without writers, then yeah, it will never be addressed.
Well, nothing's being addressed right now, so...
If it's a bunch of suits in a room, like, taking the writer's notes and then trying to build a show after that, yeah, it won't be addressed.
Type it into ChatGPT and say, finish this.
Yeah. But I really hope it's after Infinity War, because after Civil War, there's too much there. There's too much there. Mm-hmm. Like, if it's after Civil War, it's just going to be Rhodey in therapy for months. Just trying to go through everything that happened. Yeah, no, people are really upset about that. Really upset.
Upset or just questioning?
People are upset because they think it's after Civil War.
Okay.
Because if it's after Civil
and
War...
the hospital gown is about our only reason as to why that's the guess.
They're saying if it's after Civil War, then Rhodey's like, you know, emotional reaction to Tony dying means absolutely nothing. The stuff he said to Sam and Falcon Winter Soldier means nothing. Like, I was like, you got a point. But I'm interested, man. I'm interested. So let's talk about moving forward in the universe here, since... Again, I think I'm right. I think we're just building a universe, and not everything is going to be the filler that we wanted Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to be in between movies.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. still one of the greatest Marvel things.
Yeah.
Please go watch that show. Season 4 specifically.
With that being said,
is
the next thing we get is
good.
Loki Season 2. Pretty important.
I mean, at the end of Loki, we didn't technically know who Kang was, and now... he has been very prominent in a movie, so there is no hiding that at this point. So I think Kang has to be a much bigger role in Loki season 2 in order for it to make sense.
And then after that, the Marvels.
I'm excited for it. I liked season 1, and then we've got the Marvels, which Miss Marvel was an okay show. It was great for what it aimed to be, right? It was never it was never aimed at adults and looked at from an action side of things. It was very much aimed at a younger audience, and it was great for that. I didn't have an issue with Miss Marvel, so I'm excited to see Iman Vellani back in and on the big screen, because she will keep every bit of canon as possible. Have you ever heard an interview with her, Dubs?
Yes.
She knows more about Marvel than anyone else on Earth.
She is all in.
More than Kevin Feige. It is incredible. So it'll be fun to see her give it her all, and from the previews, Brie Larson and who plays Rambo? Do you remember her name?
No, I do not. Off the top of my head.
Okay.
No.
I apologize for not remembering her name. It just looks fun. And I think that's sort of where Marvel shines, is when they can do fun without getting too campy. Mm-hmm. James Gunn is obviously the best at that with the Guardians stuff. I just watched Guardians 3. It was fantastic. I don't know if I like it more than 1, but it was still really good. And one of the better things in this phase that I've seen so far. So
here we go, Henry. So
I feel like that's where Marvel sort of lives when it's good.
So we got some things coming up in the MCU that, to your point, might fall in the realm of not that important. So let me ask you, are you still going to watch them? The first one being Echo.
I mean, you can ask me all of these. I'm going to watch all of them, Dubs.
Right.
I am that person that they are aimed at. Now, go ask 20 people in the street, and I'll bet you get at least half say no.
Ironheart. Are you all in on Ironheart? Riri Williams.
Yeah.
She was not a Tony Stark disciple. She was just a really smart kid. And then now she has some Wakanda tech.
I am interested if Shuri was supposed to originally be Ironheart before Chadwick Boseman passed away. I feel like that's what they were setting up in the first Black Panther movie.
Interesting. After Ironheart is something that I'm not gonna lie, even as someone being all in, I'm probably not gonna watch. Agatha, Coven of Chaos.
Yes. I cannot for the life of me remember the actress's name.
She's phenomenal.
But yeah,
Nothing against her, but I don't like, the previews are gonna have to be really good. I'll tell you that much. And then we got Daredevil coming up, where I don't know if they're completely retconning Daredevil or what, but Charlie Cox is the man. Let's be real. As long as it's as bloody and brutal as the original one on Netflix, I'm good.
It's such a hard call because it's on Disney Plus now, but at the same time, there's Deadpool on there, so. And
that's the next thing after Daredevil. Deadpool 3.
Before we go too much farther, Aubrey Plaza is supposed to be in Agatha and Coven of Chaos as well, and Aubrey Plaza is great. So
Aubrey Plaza, already in a Marvel show. She was in Legion.
Yep. Yeah. On FX.
Yep. She was the villain. Never finished it.
Yep.
Got a little too freaky for me, but she knows what those Marvel checks look like already. So, yep.
That was not MCU. This one is, and I'm sure those checks clear different.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I think what we all agree is the next something that really means something is Deadpool 3, right?
I think the
because
first two weren't part of the MCU. So what is the Deadpool that is part of it?
The prevailing theory about this is Deadpool 3 is what makes everything MCU. Because the villain in Deadpool 3 is the TVA.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are they going to retcon Deadpool 1 and 2 into the MCU by virtue of the TVA and splitting timelines?
Or is Deadpool gonna retcon the entire MCU into his universe? Like,
I don't know.
yeah, like, that's my point.
Goes.
That's my point. Like that, Deadpool 3 might be the most important movie of the next 7. Because not only does
I take it 7 leads us up to the Kang duology.
Yes.
Okay.
Because not only does it tie in all the other universes together, it's gonna bring us to mutants. And the mutants
finally
is where we need to get to for it to be.
And we got one tease for mutants. So far, we've had a tease.
Boy,
right at the end of Miss Marvel.
What a hell of a tease! What a hell of a tease!
When that music cue hits.
Then you realize everything changed, and you're like, "Oh shit, they're doing it! They're doing the thing! Hey guys, they're doing the thing!" Yeah.
Yep.
And you don't get your next tease of it until Deadpool 3, where they're going full yellow and blue, Wolverine, the TVA, Deadpool just wreaking havoc on the multiverse.
Yeah. Sorry, spoilers for a bit of an older non-MCU superhero movie. Logan, not in the MCU. Wolverine's not dead. Easy.
Thank God. Thank God.
What a great movie, though. Holy crap.
Yeah, heavy movie.
If you haven't watched Logan, go watch Logan.
Heavy movie.
Even Mo, who, hates Marvel, loved that movie.
Which I don't get. But it's very interesting, like, looking at what's, like, coming up, it feels like the interconnectedness is gone. And I think that's...
Are you talking like versus the Infinity Saga?
Yes.
Where, like I said, every single movie felt like, yeah, we now know, like, obviously the first phase was leading up to the Avengers. And then you're like, well, what are they going to do after that? And that teased Thanos. That at least gave us a direction. And now it's like, okay, we're telling you this Thanos thing is at the end. Every single movie is going to be important to get to Thanos. And right now, they've told us Kang is at the end, but not everything has felt important yet.
And like, not everything is going to connect to Kang. Like Captain America, Brave New World. To me, that from what I've read, they're going to be fighting over that island that was supposed to be an Eternal crawling out of Earth. That's going to be full of adamantium.
Yeah. Speaking of things not tying, where are the Eternals?
Yeah.
Are they just buried? Did Marvel just say, nope, we're done with them?
I don't know. But, and then the Thunderbolts. Again, that's just going to be Marvel doing what they do best. Spy shit with superheroes.
I mean, so far that is what they've done best. One of their top movies is still Winter Soldier, and it's partially because it's not a superhero movie.
Spy shit with superheroes in it. Like, you look at, like, I think the interconnectedness is gone, and I think that's where they're either going to lose people, or they're just going to, or the Avengers movie had to be that great to get them all back in. And we're gonna wrap soon here, but Henry, let me ask you this question. So,
yeah.
In the Avengers Kang Dynasty, these new Avengers are going to be led by the new Captain America, the Falcon, Shuri as the Black Panther, and Shang-Chi. The internet is saying Kang in 4. Tell me why you're picking the Avengers in 7. Come on.
Oh, well, I mean, Shang-Chi is sort of the most powerful one of them, and that's not close. How are you... My problem with that is, how are you getting rid of the current actual, like, really big superheroes? How is Miss Marvel disappearing between now and Kang?
No, Miss Marvel can be there.
Miss Marvel... But you don't think she'd be leading, and you don't think she would lend that much to the fight?
She's 14.
Oh, sorry, Miss Marvel. I meant Captain Marvel.
I don't think she's a leader.
How are you getting
I just don't
rid of
think she's a
Captain Marvel
leader.
in
And I mean, hell, she's
but
just
she's still ridiculously powerful.
She's just not gonna be on planet.
Again,
Yeah.
we already played that card. Is she just going to be gone every single time they have to fight a big bad? That's a boring storyline.
There's a whole big universe out there, and they don't have you guys. Remember that?
I do. But at the same time, she came back for Thanos.
You know what could have squashed all of that shit that they had with like trying to displace people and stuff? Captain Marvel came down and said, "Yo, get your shit together." But she didn't.
I mean, if you're right and it's those three, it's going to take some Olympic level gymnastics for them to beat Kang. Right.
Those three are your leaders, yeah.
Right. And who's coming through the portals, I guess is my question. Right. Captain America was the leader of the Avengers. Captain America isn't the strongest Avenger. Who's coming through the portals behind him?
I mean, I don't know. It's Strange there because we saw him hop through a portal to the Dark Realm, so Lord knows where he is.
Speaking of, they did Scarlet Witch so dirty. Gosh darn it. She's easily I get it. They had to write her out. She's the strongest thing there is. She just kind of manipulates reality. But, man, she'd be useful.
Just a little bit.
In that fight.
Just a little bit.
A little bit.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe She-Hulk will be there. She can help out, right?
Yeah. Hulk's got a kid now. All three of them could be there.
There you go. Hulk. Yeah, little Hulkling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kate Bishop will be there. Yeah.
We're so far away from that to know who's coming with to fight Kang and how many Kangs they are going to be fighting. There's kind of a lot of them. Are they going to be fighting one? Is it like Jet Li in the movie where you kill one and they all get stronger until there's only one left and it's the strongest thing in the universe? I don't know.
So also you're going.
Sorry, that's an
You're going.
That's an old
Kang
callback to it.
I remember the one.
No,
I
I'm going.
I own that on DVD.
Oh, so did I. Not a good movie, but
damn,
a
it
fun
was
watch.
entertaining though.
Yep. No, I mean, I just feel like it's an impossible question to ask because we're so far away from it.
Okay.
We knew at the end of Avengers who was going to be there. We had every player in the fight, and we had an understanding of how the fight might play out. I don't know. Are the Thunderbolts going to be there, or are they just going to be a one-off movie? Are they going to do Young Avengers? We don't have any information on that, but they've sort of been setting it up. Are they going to be there? And what do the Avengers themselves look like?
So Kang and 4.
All questions we don't have answered yet.
Kang and 4.
I'm not putting a bet down at all.
Got it.
I'm taking the cheap way out, saving my money right now.
I mean, you got to remember, Secret Wars is the year after the Kang Dynasty, so you know they're going to lose in the Kang Dynasty. It's just a matter of how and what does the world look like afterwards.
Going back to it, I hope that they don't rely on crutches, or I hope they don't, start to create a pattern of how this all plays out, where every final thing is a two-parter. They always lose the first part. They always win the second, because then you walk in knowing what to expect. We didn't know how they were going to lose in the first Avengers or Infinity War. So I guess that can be interesting and be changed. But I do feel like if that's the pattern they go, then every time it takes some of the sting away of, well, we know they're going to lose. And the only interesting question is how.
I mean, I guess part of the issue is they announced Secret Wars after Kang Dynasty. And then you look at who the Avengers are. And after just one movie of Kang, and I'm like, yeah, these new Avengers can't beat that guy.
Well, I mean, we saw Kang in one movie, and he got sort of beat by Ant-Man by himself. Why can't the Avengers beat him?
Well, no, it was Ant-Man and like an entire universe that Kang turned against him, and an army of ants who had a billion years to become super smart and shit.
But was that universe filled with superheroes?
I mean, there was the one guy made out of rocks and who could just like blast energy out of his face. Can you do that, Henry?
No, I can't. So that's one. And then you got a second, third,
the amoeba,
or how many
psychic
people?
Guy, living buildings. Had a lot of people that just weren't normal people. I guess is my point.
Yes.
But I also feel like not knowing anything about Secret Wars also makes me think that it's Kang in 4, and then they figure it out in the Secret Wars. And the Secret Wars.
Well, wouldn't that make it Avengers in 7?
Yeah.
First 4 games are in the first part, and the next 3 games are in.
I guess.
That's hedging your bet.
I guess.
I'll take Kang in 4 and the Avengers in 7.
Well, it's Kang in 4 and Kang Dynasty, and then in Secret Wars it's Avengers in 7, as in they win at the very end on a buzzer beater. But like thinking about it,
we are well aware that that's not how sports series work. Just so everyone knows.
It wouldn't shock me if like Secret Wars is them like being like underground and like living in Kang's dynasty and still kind of fighting the war, if you will. I don't know, man.
I think one of the most surprising things that they could do. Is they actually finished the Kang Dynasty in Kang Dynasty, and then Secret Wars is the start of the next phase. I think that would surprise people.
Who will be your villain in Secret Wars? Would it be Dr. Doom?
Maybe. We know he's coming in eventually.
I mean, that would make sense because Armor Wars, the Wakanda series, and the Spider-Man sequel are all after Secret Wars.
Mm-hmm.
You need a big bad. I mean...
Is there bigger?
No, I mean, super rich dictator, super genius, Dr. Doom. It would work.
Everyone is waiting for Doom to come in.
Yeah.
And have been for a long, long time.
Yeah, and it works. You know, he could at some point start a war with Wakanda, you know. You could do a lot of cool spy shit that they do well. If you involve Doom, and they could do, you know, a big bad fight with Doom as well. Yeah, no, there's places they could go, but it's Kang in 4.
All right.
Because he gonna punch,
like I said, I'm not gonna put it back down. I don't know all the players yet.
Yep, I'm telling you, he gonna punch Shang-Chi right up out of them rings. He gonna do some crazy thunderclap to clap off Shuri's Black Panther suit. And poor Sam Wilson, he just gonna get his ass beat. There's no other way around it. That being said, guys, go watch Twisted Metal. It's very fun. Very fun show.
I have heard that. I was actually going to bring it up as soon as you said Sam Wilson. I was going to be like, the last thing that I want to say, very short, is Sam Mackey and Twisted Metal, which has no right being any bit good.
Yes.
And yet somehow is enjoyable.
Yes. But all right, guys, we're going to get out of here. Another episode of Embrace the Turn Up in the books. I want to thank my guest, Henrods. Henrods, tell the people where they can find you on the socials.
I am HThorpe31, I think, on everything. I don't know. I need to check what my Threads account is now.
Hey, we're on Threads. Holla at us. But if you guys are looking for me,
hey,
ADUB1220 on everything. Let me book pod on everything. Let me book the territory. New episodes every Friday. And we are out of here, people.